Hello YouTube, it's me, Brittany, and this video is going to be called my 5 tips for dating while trans. But first, I just want to address my first dislikes. So, my last video I did about being a transgender athlete didn't go over too well. So, I don't really give a fuck what any of you guys people are saying. I explained it basically how I've perceived it. I don't really care about your opinion anymore about that matter. I really just made that video for myself, just kind of put it out there like, hey, I'm sick and tired of facing all this hate because you guys are bigots and can't fucking do some research. But anyways, so onto what I'm going to talk about today. I've seen that all my subscriber numbers are going up, so I do love to see you guys are subscribing. I love all of you guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, before you start watching this video, hit that subscribe button. That would be super appreciated. Anyways, so here are my 5 tips for dating while trans. So this is going to be specifically for male to female dating male, because it's just going to be mainly speaking from my experience. I don't really date women. I haven't since way before I transitioned, and yeah, just not something I have any experience in anymore. So my first number 1 rule and tip for dating while trans is to always be safe. And this doesn't mean just using protection sexually and things like that. This means be safe. Like, always have your guard up. Guys can flip at any moment. Like, a guy can be super nice to you at any time, and then all of a sudden his whole attitude or perception can change based off of something that somebody else said. So just be safe, keep your head on a swivel, basically. Like, always be ready to, I don't want to say defend yourself, but yeah, in reality, as many times as I have faced assault, I want to say be ready to defend yourself, because that may be what has to happen. But what I do now is, like, I extensively screen guys before I meet them. However, I do have those instances when I'm out and about, especially when I'm doing comedy shows, where I meet guys just, at random, and, I have to be weary. You have to be, sometimes guys, especially with me, until I open my mouth, and sometimes even when I don't open my mouth, because I can speak up here in this register, it's just, I'm lazy. So, if I really wanted to, I can be way up here and be speaking in this register for for the entire night, and I could really be passing. So, I have to be really careful when I meet guys out at a bar, because you never know, if they're gonna flip out on you or anything like that. So, just always be safe, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of people you're around. I try not to go out to places that are unknown to me. As far as when it comes to a date, I like to go to somewhere I've actually been to before, like a restaurant or something like that. That way I'm familiar with this space enough to where, if something were to go down, I know exactly how to get in and get out of that area. So that's my first tip, and basically it's just the number 1 rule for anything in dating. Is just always be safe, be careful, in with who you're dealing with and all those types of things. So my next thing is going to be kind of a broader topic. So my next tip is to kind of try new things. So for me, I had come from working in the bar business for years, so when it came to dating, it was always just meeting people, out in public and random. When people meet me in public, I'm a totally different person. I'm very shy at first, but once you get to know me, I can open up and just talk for hours and hours and hours, as you guys can see. That it was always easier for me before I transitioned, to date, because I was just always out more in that public, area where I could meet people. So, for me, once I transitioned and I realized how scary and dangerous it was not just to be myself in the real world, with normal people who I'm not trying to date, it's even more frightening, to try to date, in a bar. It can be really scary for a trans woman, especially young trans, baby trans in their first 2 or 3 years, where maybe they haven't grown long hair yet, they're still working off of a wig, they haven't really mastered makeup techniques or anything like that. I mean, we all go through those phases, so don't worry if you're in that phase. I was right there with you. So when I say try new things, for me, that was online dating. And don't be afraid to jump online to not just LGBT sites, but for me, I prefer straight guys. I've always been more of a straight woman, so I prefer straight guys. So I actually put myself onto straight dating sites. I'm also, I'm on Tinder, I'm also on Grindr, also on a couple other gay dating sites. But I've found that further along in my transition, those gay dating sites just aren't as effective. They just don't work. You know why? Gay guys don't like fucking tits. Anyways, so, but I mean, maybe that's not all it, but it's primarily what I've noticed. So, yeah, so I don't really rely on those too much. I do meet friends on those sites quite often, and I do meet other trans girls, strangely, who will always message and say, "Hey, girl, you look good," and I'm like, "Hey, you girl, you look good," and like all of a sudden we're friends, but we're just, we've never met each other anyway. But like, so don't be afraid to try those new things and step out of your comfort zone and experience something. So, my third tip is kind of like a basic thing, but as a trans woman, this is going to happen to you, especially if you're dating men. You're going to be offered money to have sex. That is a threshold. Now, I personally have never crossed that threshold, and I don't ever want to. So, I don't rip on any trans girls that do that, because I do understand that the difficulty in finding work and as a trans woman is unfortunately extremely difficult, and sometimes the only work that you can settle for is that kind of sex work where getting paid for sex is, how you're making your money. So I say, if you don't have to use that as an outlet to make your money, don't cross that threshold, because once you do, it's a spiral downhill. It's like a gateway drug, not like marijuana, like cocaine. It's like a gateway drug. So like, once you try it and you realize how simple and easy it is, from girls that I've known who have done it, they realize how difficult it is to not do it again, because you realize, oh, this dude's an asshole, and a lot of it is coming from married men. So this is another part of this tip, is don't fuck with married men, because married men have secrets and they're making you your secret, and you deserve better than that, always. So don't be anybody's secret. Don't take money for your sex or your friendship or your relationship or going on a date, anything. The only money a man should be spending on you to take you out is the money he's spending on dinner and the money he's spending on like a movie or something like that. And that doesn't have to be a lot. Like, I'm not saying a man has to take you out on a date like that. So like, some of my best dates have not been very expensive for the man at all. In fact, a guy took me fishing once thinking I would like that, but turns out I fucking hate fishing. So I just kind of sat on his boat all day and enjoyed the sun. So it wasn't a bad date, but it wasn't a great date. But he didn't have to spend any money, and we got to know each other and we had a good time. So like, just don't feel like you're forced to take money in order to have that relationship, because I know that I was in my second and third year of transitioning, and I had become so frustrated with dating that I'd gotten so many times people had offered me money that I almost made that leap. Don't, because you will regret it, I promise you. So that's my third tip, is to don't take money for it. My fourth one's going to come out kind of wrong, but I'm going to rephrase it so that you understand what I'm meaning. So lower your expectations. That doesn't mean lower your standards. So I still look for certain standards in a man. Like, he's got to treat me right, he's got to have a good job, he's got to have a good head on his shoulders as far as morals go, and he has to have, that freaky side as well, because I'm a kind of a crazy person. He also has to have a sense of humor, has to be able to listen to me talk for hours and hours and hours. There's lots of standards I have. Don't lower those, because those are important for you as a person. Lower your expectations for what you're expecting that man to be. You know what I mean? And this is going to basically say, you're not going to find the 10 every single time. Like, I've found, I can tell you right now, since I've been transitioned 6 years, I have been with, I don't want to say a lot, but I've dated probably at least 10 or 12 men. Of those 10 or 12 men, two were 100% attractive. Oh my goodness, this is a guy that I would hit on in the club, in the bar, trying to get him to ask me out. That's what I mean by lower your expectations. You're gonna find that there are good men out there who just don't get the chance because of the way they look. And because you're trans, you're going to be thrown to the side a lot because of just being trans. So, especially if you date straight like me, like I'm on apps like Plenty of Fish, where I, tell people in my profile that I'm trans, but yet I will still talk to guys for days upon days before they've read my profile, and then they ask me out and they say, let me make sure you know I'm trans. So, like, and then they just ghost you or they block you or something like that. So you're gonna find it's very frustrating. So if you're trying to go after all those guys that you think are super hot, because they're gonna end up becoming douchebags. So lower your expectations. Give a chance to somebody that's, I'm not want to say like super unattractive, but just not your normal everyday guy. But in his first message, he said something meaning. He asked you a question, something like that, instead of being a normal pervert like a guy does that sends a dick picture or something like that. So that's my fourth tip, is to kind of lower your expectations but not your standards. That's a different thing. The last tip I kind of briefed on in the last little tip, but basically is you have to know when to disclose that you're trans. It is not appropriate at all, ever, for you to hide that from somebody that you're trying to become intimate or date with. That's just my personal opinion. If you don't feel that way, that's okay. I'm sorry. I just personally believe, for your own safety, the fact that I faced assault when I did not disclose it immediately or at the right time, I'm just telling you, it's a risky game to not disclose that to whoever you're trying to date or something. But knowing when that is, another thing. So like I said, I put it on every single one of my dating profiles. It's never not listed on my profile that I'm trans. So it's very, if you find me on a dating app, you should read my profile and it'll tell you. If you don't, that's on you. Now, I'm going to talk to you. Initially, I will talk, have no problem. Now, once it comes time for you to ask me out on a date, that's when I'm going to be like, oh, I need to make sure that you've read this and you understand that I'm a trans woman. So, when it comes to online dating, I'd say, hey, put it in your profile. Let them know once they say, hey, well, let's go have a date. Let's meet each other. That's when they need to find out. Now, outside dating, like meeting a guy in a bar, that is where it becomes super risky, because you really don't know when is the right time, because you could be having a great conversation with this guy, but you know that as soon as you tell him, that entire fucking scenario could be gone out the window. So it's really, really different. However, if things start to get intimate and he's starting to ask for your phone number or anything like that, that's when you need to say something. Like, you have to be able to say, it's not just for them, it's for you. I promise you, it's for you, because you're trying to save your own self from being assaulted. This is one of the biggest reasons that trans women get assaulted in our society today, is because guys feel that we misrepresented ourselves to them, and then they go crazy and fucking assault us. And in some states, they can actually get away with that because of some crazy rule or whatever. Anyways, these are my 5 tips for dating while trans. I do love every single one of you guys. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye, everybody.